Hi, as if you didn't already know, I'm Terry Mosher, or Aislin, the cartoonist for the Gazette. I think of myself as sort of a liberal left kind of guy, like most of our readers. Not a socialist exactly, but I believe in a certain amount of noblesse oblige in our governments. In other words, I think they should take care of people. Therefore, given that point of view, Stephen Harper was a very, very easy person to lampoon with his right-wing policies and so on over the last 10 years. I've just gone through a whole bunch of cartoons from the last, in fact, over 10 years, and have come up with a few favorites. So let's take a look at these, shall we? I think the first cartoon I drew that I thought made a point was, I think, in 2003. It was when Peter MacKay was running the Progressive Conservatives, and Stephen Harper was head of what was the Canadian Alliance that had been the Reform Party, and they were both sort of vying for a leadership role, which Harper, but here they are both trying to ride a Segway, sort of a silly mobile device of the time. That very same year, in fact, the Canadian Alliance and the Progressive Conservative Party joined forces and became the Conservative Party. Here's sort of an avid Westerner and a sort of a business-like Easterner sort of forming one figure. But the key in this cartoon is that the PC, the former Progressive Conservative, the P for Progressive has been crossed out. And that is indeed what happened, in that after that point there was very little progressiveness, if you will, in Canada during Harper's reign. It all happened very quickly at the beginning. Harper taking over in 2003. By 2004, remember the Liberals were a mess at that point, but between Chrétien and Martin and the sponsorship scandals. But there was an election in 2004. The Tories expected to do very, very well. In fact, they didn't do anywhere near as well as they thought. And this is a classic conservative situation, much like Stanfield, who had dropped the football. So I drew Stephen Harper dropping the football after that particular election. From the very start, Harper was an authoritarian figure. I mean, cabinets are supposed to toe the line in it, but in his particular case, it was absolutely essential. And so I drew his first cabinet as a bunch of finger puppets. And this held true throughout his whole reign. In fact, Jim Flaherty, actually one of his best cabinet ministers, used to quietly call Harper the Ayatollah when he was out of hearing range. The funniest item of all, I can't remember the circumstances, but he did one of those silly quizzes, you know, where would you be this or would you be that? And in it he said he'd much rather be a colorful fruit than a vegetable. So I put a couple of gay friends in a cartoon saying, "Who knew?" Yeah, colorful fruit. Cutting to the chase, though, the biggest problem for Harper became the Senate scandal, where, in effect, many senators were overdoing it, spending far too much money, arrogantly sort of carrying out these things, supposedly political activities, but in many cases were sort of personal appearances and so on. And at the heart of it was Mike Duffy, who, of course, is from Prince Edward Island. There I drew him sort of with Anne of Green Gables' outfit. Then the Mike Duffy business really became bizarre. Stephen Harper's chief of staff, Nigel Wright, wrote a check for $90,000 to Mike Duffy so he could pay the money he owed back and that sort of thing. And Stephen Harper claimed not to know anything about it. Well, I think probably the best work I did on that subject was I wondered what the actual check looked like. Here it is, the check from Nigel Wright to Mike Duffy for $90,000, and down in the little memo box is the killer. Good to go, S.H. So here we are, 2015, the beginning of 2015. Stephen Harper's thinking about the possibility of election this year. It has to happen. What does he do in the summer? He calls an election, and one of the longest elections on record. I think he felt that he had enough money that he could outspend the opposition and spend a lot of money on those attack ads, just as he had done in the past with Ignatieff and Stéphane Dion, and he could just outspend them and also just hammer them to the ground. I think he really felt that way, but it began to backfire on him. There was the Senate business, of course, but then didn't he bring up the niqab issue? It was just a total mistake and backfired on him. It was supposed to target Trudeau, but it ended up targeting the NDP and Tom Mulcair, allowing Trudeau to increase his vote in Quebec. It was a disaster. We knew at that point Stephen Harper was, in effect, toast. He hadn't read the situation properly. He was outdistanced and outmaneuvered by a younger generation, by a Justin Trudeau, who had a very good staff. They knew what they were doing. They understood the mood of the country. And in effect, he photobombed the hell out of Stephen Harper, but not all of Stephen Harper, Tom Mulcair, and here we are today. If I have a Stephen Harper favorite cartoon, I think it would be this one. It sort of sums the man up, and I drew it very early in 2006. Very simple, no words. Stephen Harper, and his mouth is a zipper. So there you go. My 9th Prime Minister down, another one to go. Bye-bye now.